Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you will learn to simplify and transform your life. I am James Miller, a licensed professional counselor and a composer. So we started off yesterday, with our first episode, the introduction, and I kind of struggled with where I wanted to start moving forward because there's so many different things that to kind of teach you. But I think the best way to do it is perception. So when we look at any situation, we have a perception about it. So a thought is just a thought unless we believe that thought. So when we have any perception of a situation, it then determines what we're going to feel. Our feelings then generate chemicals which tell our body what to do. So the thing is, we'll back up to the emotions here. Many times people think, I can only feel one emotion. But we're so complex in nature that we feel so many things at one time, but we may have more of a go-to emotion that we express more frequently than the others. So the perception of any situation, let's say that you were stood up for a date, and obviously your perception about that is you don't feel very good. You think that whatever your thoughts are about that person can be whatever they are. But prior to that situation, you may have thought about that person and felt a certain way, so you had certain feelings. Your body was excited, you were looking forward to that, you went out into the activities where maybe you bought new clothes, you went to the gym, you ate differently, whatever it might be. But as soon as you got stood up, it's probably a whole different, yes, thank you, Bosley. It's probably a whole different ball of wax there. So what you did was, so the perception changed, and then all of a sudden your emotions now are so different. You have all these feelings that are coming up, you've all this kind of the fight or flight kicks in, and then you respond a certain way. So the point is, in any situation, if you were to get more information, that perception evolves more and more. So this isn't the best example, but this particular thing here. So this is my owner's manual for my piano here, actually. So if you were to see the situation, so this is the situation of you being stood up. So you see this, and I say, so what do you see? So you'd say, well, I see Yamaha stage piano, and I'm not promoting Yamaha at all, by the way. CP4 stage, etc. So you would see this, you'd say it's a book, you'd say it's white, you'd see it's black, etc. So, but what happens if I said, well, there's a whole other side here. And so the whole back of this has all this, all this information, and there's a whole other side here that you can see. And there's a whole other side inside. So the point is there's so many ways in which to look at a situation. So if we often look at a situation, maybe from a lower self-esteem or from a negative perception, well, then that's automatically going to solidify that concept of self-doubt, self-deprecation, feeling less than, feeling worthless, which then turns into feelings of self-defeat, of just sadness about ourselves, and we're not able to really evolve beyond that. Now, some people may have a lot of anger towards that perception of it being stood up, which is understandable, and then that can lead to many other things. But the predominant response is when these things happen, we often will kind of revert back to our core belief about ourselves, and so it then solidifies what we believed before, which then makes our emotions greater and greater towards whatever spin we put on that situation. So we're here at the emotions. We're feeling all these different things, and then our body then reacts a certain way. So if we get stood up, all of a sudden we have all this anxiety that's built up, and then we have all this negative tension that needs to be released. And so sometimes, people will cry. The way people cry, the reason why is, you have so you have our perception, which causes sadness or whatever, which then causes us to cry. All that energy is built up, and it has to be released somehow. So kinetic movement, any type of movement at all, is going to help release this energy. So if this person, after they're stood up, how they feel, and then they're crying, or they find themselves pacing, or they find themselves yelling, or they find themselves drinking, whatever it might be, that is an actual movement and an action that's created from your emotions, which your emotions are created by your perception. So the goal is, in showing you this thing here, is in any situation, you can look at it differently. There's multiple ways in which you can look at a situation. But if you've proven over time that the only way to look at something based on past experiences is look at it the same way, well, then you're going to respond the same way. Your emotions are going to be the same way. And then your reactions are going to be the same way. So I really challenge you that with any perception you have, you want to spin it differently. You want to ask yourself, well, if I were to flip this around and look at it in different ways, how would it be different? And if it is different, well, then my emotions have to change because I can't feel the same thing because it really is a different situation. So however you spin it, you'll notice that your emotions will change, and that's how you can be proactive with it. Doesn't mean those other emotions are going to be negated, but they're going to be decreased and other emotions are going to come out. So you have the power within you, within your mind, to really change your perception and say, you know what, this person stood me up. So they're lost. Whatever that might be, I'm an amazing person, I believe these things, I'm going to be the right person, whatever it might be. But however that spin is, that's automatically going to change your emotions. And that emotional change is then going to give you the ability to do things that are different, maybe not engage in some self-deprecating acts or whatever it might be. But if you struggle with that and you're not able to do that, switch your perception, you have these emotions, then my charge to you is to be very mindful of what you do. If you find yourselves engaging in activities that aren't healthy, then you definitely need to change those. That's obvious. But what I always recommend is some type of exercise. I don't mean you have to go to the gym or run a mile or whatever it might be. But the point is to move yourself in such a way that your heart rate goes up just a bit. It actually starts to relieve a lot of that tension. And so the whole goal of that is if you struggle here and you struggle here, then you do something here. And one of the main things you really look at in any situation is what am I doing overall? Our actions are always going to give us insight into what we're feeling and what we're doing or what we're thinking. So whatever portal you can use to work your way back to your perception about a situation is what we need to be mindful of. Sometimes I can scan my body and say, well, what am I doing? And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing okay. Or sometimes I'm thinking, well, why am I even doing this? And then I can link it back to, well, what am I feeling? Now, what am I thinking? What am I perceiving? And so whatever direction you can move it in, or you're able to enter into those portals, will help you get to this perception. So I really want to recommend for you that in any situation, we automatically go through this in split seconds within our mind, within any activity. So I really want you to be aware of that if you are doing something, you're proud of your actions or you're okay with your actions, then it's probably fine. If you're doing things and you're noticing that it's probably linked to some type of emotion or your thoughts, you just can't stop those thoughts, you have to change one of these things, and that's what's going to help you lead a more mindful, productive, proactive life. So just because you perceive something to be a certain way does not mean that's the case, but we perceive it that way for so long that these other things happen. So it's really important for us to be aware of these things, be able to change that perception, and that perception is going to help you be the most proactive person you can be. So thank you so much for sitting here listening to me. Thank you for your subscription to this channel, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. All right, bye-bye. Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology. Well, you will learn to simplify and we just started. Hi, welcome to James.